I bought an 18 this year in April. An 18, mind you, 3-year-old truck, and I paid 138,000. All right, I'm gonna say that again.
Woo! What's good, everybody? It's your boy O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another collaboration here, guys. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, and check out the channel. But today I have a brother. He didn't even know I was watching him. He has an excellent personality, and he's really a professional in his field. But I'll let him explain who he is and what his channel is all about. Go ahead, brother.
All right, country CEO, located down here in South Louisiana, a little small town called Clinton, Louisiana, which is about 20 miles north of the capital city of Baton Rouge. And we're in dump trucking, particularly triaxle dump trucking. I've been doing it now for 21 years. And for some strange reason, I believe perhaps by the urging of the Almighty, last October, I just got to thinking about, getting on YouTube and giving the game to folks and praying that they would find some value in it, because I didn't have that when I started. So I wanted it to be a form of giving back.
You're doing an excellent job. Excellent job. So give him a round of applause, editors. And he's doing an excellent job of giving the information. The first channel that I've seen, I know there are other content creators who might be African American, but you're the first that I've ever seen talk about the dump truck business. Let me ask you, how did you get started? Before we get into all the good stuff, how did you get started in this particular industry?
Well, what happened was I was actually driving a ready-mix truck. I had just got my license driving a ready-mix truck, which is ready-mix concrete. And come into the break room one day, and one of the older guys, I was the youngest guy, 22, 23 years old. The rest of the guys was 60 and 70. And I'll never forget, one of the older men said, man, you're a young man. He say, you need to be in a plant somewhere working, and which is a popular thing in South Louisiana, oil refineries and things of that nature. And typically those guys make good livings. But he didn't know how he really struck me with that. And I started thinking about that and said, you know what, he's right. And I set up on a path then to say, okay, how can I better myself? And so I tried to do just that. I tried to go get a plant job. It looked like I had it in the bag. And at the last minute, it didn't come through. And so I was back to the drawing board, and I was like, man, I said, well, that didn't work out. What can I do? And then the thought just came to mind, like, okay, what can you do with what you already have? You have a Class B license. What other form of trucking can you get into to go do for yourself? Get your own trucks. So I was thinking, first of all, road trucking over the road. I only had a Class B. I could go get my Class A and go over the road. Mm-hmm. And then looking in truck paper one day, looking for a road truck, just kind of grazing. I saw dump trucks. I said, I say, that looks pretty good. I say, dump trucking. Mm-hmm. And I started paying attention as I still worked at the ready-mix plant, paying attention, started seeing them all around town, asking questions. And lo and behold, at the ready-mix plant, the longtime mechanic, his son and him were into dump trucking. And I found that out just through conversation with somebody. And he came down there to our plant one day, and I got to talking to him, and he said, yeah. He's kind of like a African French American. He was a little accent. He said, yeah, man, good business. He said, look, you need to talk to my son. He give you all the information. And he said, particularly, which is something that really set me on the right path. He said, get a triaxle. If you're going to get one, he said, get a triaxle. Don't get a tandem dump truck. I said, okay, cool. So I, from that day forward, started putting the wheels into motion, got a line of credit, and the rest is history.
Now, I like what you said, that you took the initiative. You were already in the trucking industry, and then you said something very profound. What can I do with what I already have?
Yes.
And then after that, you started to start asking questions. When you saw the ad, a lot of black men, in our community, a lot of brothers will be looking for opportunities, but they don't go out and ask questions. What got you interested in going out and trying to find the information for yourself like you did?
Well, I've always been not shy about asking questions about things that I don't know. And so just after seeing the trucks and being excited at looking at the trucks, I thought, and seeing them, I started just talking to coworkers about it. Man, what do you think about that? Man, what do you think about that? dump trucking. Do you know anything? Asking around. And I think that's just important when you don't know anything. Start having conversations with people, and you'd be surprised, man, who knows something or who knows who. And that
Right.
just was, that they pointed me guy right there working with us periodically all the
Mm-hmm.
time in the dump truck business, and I didn't even know it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay,
Mhm.
and that's good that you created your own opportunity. Now,
Mhm.
once you were driving, and you did you have to go get another class of trucking license or something, or?
No, no, the Class B, a ready mix truck is a straight truck, as they call it, and so it's the
Mhm.
same license. You can drive a dump truck with the same license. So I didn't have to make any kind of upgrades at that point. Just went right on into it.
Okay, let me talk about a person who's not in the trucking industry. Let's say a person that wasn't already driving and they want to get into dump trucks.
Okay.
What would they need to do, and what would the path would they need to take for a person that's not already driving?
Great question. Great question. Well, on the channel, in those early first, I think the first two videos, I talk about the path that I took. Because everybody commonly thinks you got to go to driving school, and some of the guys on the channel from Georgia are saying that it may be a federal law coming out in February that you got to go to driving school. But basically, what I did, O'Shea, I was working at Louisiana State Penitentiary. Let me back up for a second.
Okay. Okay.
I was working at Angola. I was a correctional officer, went there at 19 years old, and was working there. And one of my guy I grew up with left to go drive the ready mix truck. So I talked with him, hey man, how did you get your license? And it was real easy. Get the
Hmm.
book, study the book. Class B, you don't need but air brakes and general knowledge. Two tests. Both of them 25 questions apiece. Air brakes, general knowledge. I got the book, studied the book, set an appointment to go take the test down at the state police office. I passed the test. They give you a 90-day permit. You got 90 days to practice before you can go take a road test with a third party administrator, right? A third party administrator. There's strategically different people in different cities around the state and in every state that they're not the state, but they do this for the state whereby they render the driving test. So I practiced and kind of done what I, pre-trip, post-trip, studied all that good stuff. Went to a third-party administrator. I didn't have a truck of my own. They had a school bus. And so I went there. I think it cost $150, paid them. They took me around town in the school bus, made me do a pre-trip, post-trip, my general knowledge of trucks and things of that nature. And man, look, after it was over, they gave me a certificate showing where I had passed the road test. Went back to DMV with that paperwork, paid I think it was $30 at that time for a CDL, and got my license, man, just like that. You're probably talking about what, $6 for the book, 150 to take the test, 30 for the license, almost less than $200. I had Class B CDL, man, just like that.
Wow. Let me
Mhm.
ask you this, because you were already working for the Ready Mix. Was the
Mhm.
income pretty decent in that? Uh,
Not really, because
okay.
and this is part of which was also part of my inspiration when that old man told me that at that job that day, brother. We were getting 9.15 an hour, and this was in 2000, 99, 2000. We were getting 9.15 an hour, and watch this. Everybody on the job made the same thing. It
Wow.
didn't matter how long they had been there. I'd only been there 2 or 3 years. Everybody made the same thing. The key was getting the hours. And when I
Hmm.
tell you, I kid you not, I was working 78 hours a week.
Wow.
My boss was like, that man working from dark to dark. I leave out dark, you know, 70, 80 hours a week, man. And then O'Shea, the thought comes to mind, man, if I can work like a dog for somebody else with that kind of work ethic, I can do this for myself.
Right.
That was part of the inspiration.
Okay. Okay. Now, so let's look at what a lot of people, because you do a really good job of talking about the money, because you really be breaking it down, and you
Right.
be real excited about the opportunity. I could just see it
Right.
all in your eyes, and you be
Right.
really breaking it down, and that's what I love about your channel.
Okay.
How does one get paid and find clients once you in the dump truck industry? And what kind of money are we talking about for a lot of the brothers that's looking to get into that? Are some of the women, we talked about that, we talked about that also, but what's the opportunities for finding work, and how much are they getting paid?
Right, right. Well, right now, that's a good question. Right now, since in the last 2 months of the channel, we were getting $75 an hour for triaxles here in Louisiana, $75 an hour. Well, since the channel in the last 2 months, we got a raise up to $85 an hour. And what's happening is, and this is speaking to the opportunities question, is that the work is booming. When I tell you it's exploding, that was the name of that live Friday. The work and the opportunities are just unbelievable right now. I'm in the process now trying to get a third truck because I can't keep up. And so what has happened is, and specific to Louisiana, is that there's a $30 billion backlog in road and bridge work. All right. And so because they're so far behind and the infrastructure is crumbling, we are rated as what, 49 or 50, I believe, is the worst roads in the country. The state has now made a consistent effort to try to, okay, we got to do something about this, right? And so they're pouring more money into the bid lettings from a state level for the state low roads and stuff like that, which is what I like to major in and emphasize, because that's what's going to keep you working the longest, the most, and developing those kind of relationships that can really make your business be a prosperous business. All right. And so the opportunity, and then as we talk to guys across the channel, it's the same. I'm hearing the same thing in every state, man. It's exploding in Nashville, Birmingham, New York, Philadelphia, everywhere we talk to. Nevada, we just had a guy come on, first person from Nevada the other week. Everywhere we had somebody come on, if not in their particular area, the nearest city is just booming. So, and this is without the Senate and the Senate passed infrastructure. The House has to pass it. But once that bill comes down, then you're talking about more money coming from the federal government into the state specifically for roads and bridges. But without that, for some reason, there's a concerted effort, seems to be amongst the states now, that they gotta do something about that. So who does that work? Dump truckers. That's what we do, right? Trailer truckers, dump truckers. They need us to do construction, road construction, asphalt, concrete. We're the guys. They can't get around it, right? Because the little big construction dump trucks, we call them ukes, that's off road. They can't get on road, right? So there's a market there where they gotta have us. All right. And so specifically Louisiana right now, there's a shortage of trucks. I just made a video recently. There's an abundance of work, but there's a shortage of trucks. And so it's the old thing about supply and demand. The demand of the work is there, but the supply of the trucks is not there. And when you got more demand than you got supply, the price goes up. So I'm actually anticipating that this thing is going to go from 85, fastly approaching 100 within another year per hour for a triaxle dump truck. And when you do the math, man, that's money. That's great money to make a great living all day long, even without your expenses.
So let's talk about, how does one secure, and I know you went into detail on your channel about this also, but once you get into this particular industry, how do you secure the work? So once you have done this and secure the work and maybe get a truck, how's the best way to go about that?
Great question. Great question. So this is how I've basically laid it out on the channel and what I suggest and what's really worked for me. In doing your research and your due diligence beforehand, what I have advocated is that you talk to several groups of people, right? First thing you can do, DOT website. Go on DOT website. Get familiar with that, because what happens with that every month is that the state puts out a bid letting. In other words, projects across this whole state. All right. And what that provides for you, and it's public information, what that provides for you, where the job is going up at, who wins the job, and their contact information. And what that provides is two different avenues of possibilities. Number one, if you're a DBE, disadvantaged business enterprise, which I am, then that means the federal government has mandated that those jobs that the state has, 10% or 15% has to go to a disadvantaged business, such as myself, right? One becomes a DBE by filling out the paperwork on a DOT website of your state, get approved. It's a process. And then you're a DBE. And then companies will call you and say, hey, we noticed you're a DBE. You provide dump trucking. We want you to work on this job. We need you to sign some paperwork showing where we provided 10 or 15% of this job to you. So do the math, O'Shea. If the job is a $2 million job, then that means if it's 10, the goal is 10%, $200,000 of that job, the work has to be given to you. All right. So that's one way. All right. If you're not a DBE, at the very least, what that does by going on that website, it shows you where the work is at in your area close to you. Once
Mm-hmm.
that information is in hand, you see the company that won the job. Contact them. Hey, look, my name is so and so. I run dump trucks. I noticed you guys won the job on in such and such county that's going to
Mm-hmm.
begin in very soon. I would like to know how I can get some of that work and work with you guys in getting that job done. And in most cases, they're going to either do one or two things. They're going if they're doing it themselves and they're not hiring it out and they don't have a sub doing it, they're going to say, hey, send us your information, hauler agreement, your insurance, your workman's comp. We'll let you know your contact information, W-9. We'll let you know when you get started. Or if a sub has it, they're going to say contact such and such. They are going to be responsible for our hauling. And then you call that person or that company. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing. I know I was told you guys had the job. Would like to get on with your job. You guys hauling, right? That's two ways. Second way is come down to the county level, right? For us, it's parishes, county, same thing. They have to do their own roads. The state doesn't do county roads. So your county is going to have some kind of method of rendering out bid lettings for companies to do their work. Same process. There's EB opportunities, DBE opportunities, and just getting the information of who has the job. Come on down to the city level. Same thing. The county doesn't do city limits, the roads in the city limits. So the city is responsible for their own roads, right? Same process. Contact the city. They have a website. They bid their work out. Follow the same routine. There's DBE opportunities, or at the very least, you find out who has the job, right? So that's three different avenues. All right. Call your local chamber of commerce. They always know who's coming to town, who's finna build, who's bringing new industry, who's doing what in your town, right? Um, Go to the permit office in your county or your city. Anybody that's going to build or do anything has to file for a permit in your permit office, right? So what I'm doing, O'Shea, here is that this is how you get the information before you get the information. All right. And one of the keys is knowing before everybody else know.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what has worked for me. If I can know, make conversations before everybody else know, I get my foot
Mm-hmm.
in the door before everybody else can. Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Come on down. Give you a seventh way. Go talk to other dump truckers. When you see these guys working on these jobs, shoot, and they hanging out at the truck stop for lunch, pull up over there, talk to them. Hey man, I see you guys working hard. Where y'all working at? And some guys, be a little tight-lipped with the information, but you're gonna always run across one. He don't mind. He gonna tell you, right? Yeah, man, we working
Right.
over here. We'll be here a while. Oh, okay, man. How y'all get hooked up with those folks? They'll tell you, right? So talking to other dump truckers will always work. All right. Give you a eighth way, a ninth. I done lost count. Look in the yellow pages. All right, or in Google. All right. And you can see the different construction companies or asphalt companies in your area. Call them. Hey, look, I'd like to get hooked up with you guys. How's your work? Do you have work? I'd like to work for you. Okay. All right. Give you a 10th way. Limestone yards, dirt pits. Call them up. Hey, how do I get hooked up to haul limestone and granite out of your quarry or your pit? How do you haul dirt for you guys? Right. They need trucks. Typically, those places don't have their own trucks. So they need trucks to haul for them. And so these are ways, what I gave you about 10, I believe, that you go about getting plugged in. And what I've discovered, O'Shea, somebody gonna say yes. More than one person gonna say yes. And
Mm-hmm.
most of the guys I've told this to do this and talk to the people as if they've got the truck already. They haven't gotten in the business. A couple of them have run into the problem. Okay, man, can you come now? They
Oh.
oh man, I'm just doing research. I don't have a truck yet. That's what you'll discover.
Okay. Okay. So people actually saying, "Can you come now?" In
Yeah.
many cases.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because one of
Let
the
me.
things I do is I tell them when they're doing the research, talk to the people as if you're already in the business. Don't talk to them
Mm-hmm.
as you're aspiring or, hey man, I'm gonna get a truck. Because they hear that all the time.
Right.
Doing that, talk to them as if you're already in the business, and that way you're gonna get the real answers.
Okay. So now that there's a such a need for it, do you find yourself having to call and get jobs now, or are you like overbooked as it is?
It's a little bit of both because I don't care what kind of trucking you in nationwide. Every once in a while you'll have a lull or a little slow week. I did a video recently about the sun is out and shining, but we still slow, right? Because what happens is contractors go through transition. If they don't finish up a certain section of a job, before they can get ready for the next section, they might, you might be slow 2 or 3 days. They might tell you, well, man, look, we don't have much, right? And so therefore you may have to go make a few calls to somebody else to just fill in until you go back with your main folks that you may work with, right? And so it's a little bit of both. I don't want to say that you're just so overbooked, you're swamped, because there will be times just in the nature of business where, just say for instance, the company I'm with now, they're blowing and going, but even at least twice now in the last 6 months, they've had a slow week, right? And I've had to just go fill in somewhere else. The good part is there is other places to fill in, right? And the old folks put it this way: there's a mighty poor rat that ain't got but one hole to go in, right?
I like that one.
So you always want to keep, even though you may not can get to them, you always want to keep other people that you're in contact with. And if they calling you, you can't get to them, the best thing you can do is say, hey, I'm tired of right now. When I get finished, I'll call you. And then you call them. Hey, look, you still need a truck over there? Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Okay. How many days right now would you say, as far as that you work, what's the normal day like for the guys out there?
Oh, wow. O'Shea, one of the things you have to be flexible in this business, in the sense that every week, or in this business, your work week may not be Monday through Friday. There's going to come a week where that work week is going to be Wednesday through Sunday because Monday and Tuesday got some rain. Or there may there's going to be a work week where the company switched to all nights. They ain't doing nothing during the day. Right? So you have to be flexible in the sense that sometimes it's going to be like that. 85% of the time, Monday through Friday, and they might say, okay, well, we can work tomorrow, Saturday, be off. But there's going to come a time that beginning of the week was slow. We're working straight through the weekend, or you may have to work nights. Right now, we're working day and night. Right. And you can't have a problem with that, because watch this. You budget yourself on Monday through Friday. You can actually take care of your business, pay yourself, pay your driver on Monday through Friday. But when there's opportunity to get those nights and a Saturday or Sunday in Louisiana, we call that's lagniappe. That's extra money. That's your play money. That's lagniappe, right? That you want to get that, because that makes up for that rainy day over here, that rainy day over there.
Okay, so let's talk about the financial truck, and I obviously see you have another driver, so you kind of like scale the business, and then you have people under you. But for those who are just starting out and they want to understand how to get a truck, and how to find it, how much do these trucks cost? I know it's range maybe, but how does one get financed with a truck? What's the process of going through that?
Right. What I've done is deal with dealerships mostly. I have a comfort level with dealerships because typically you're going to get some kind of warranty, some kind of guarantee, some kind of reassurance. If something happens, you can bring the truck back. My first truck, bought it in Houston, Texas. And even it was a 6-year-old truck, had a high mileage, but they gave me a year warranty, and they showed me proof that they had tested the oil in the engine and that there was no metal and that it was good. So what happened was they provided in-house financing. This particular dealership, I guess it was some finance companies that they worked through. And I ended up putting, the truck was like $45,000 back then. I ended up putting $7,500 down on $45,000 to get the truck financed. So these days, obviously, as things have evolved and changed, I still advocate going to a dealership because you'll find a better comfort level with a reputable dealership. They have in-house financing. Typically, what I'm being told these days, you need to at least have a 650 to and up credit score. If you got business credit, that's certainly great, but mostly, more than anything, getting started, they're going to refer to that personal credit score as the foundation of you getting started, right? And also getting started, typically most of requiring 10 to 20% down. All right. So if the truck, let's just throw numbers out there, the truck is 100,000. They might, you just starting this your first truck, they might want you to put 20,000 down. Right. You get lucky. You're doing great if they want you to put 10. You get away with 10%. That is great. All right. And so that's what's going to be required. For most guys, if you can go ahead, even if you're not ready yet, go ahead and get the LLC, go ahead and get your EIN, because it looks better when you get ready to go that EIN LLC, you already had it 2 years. It looks like you've already been in business, right? Because all they look at is the date of the LLC. They ain't checking to see whether or not you actually done business. They just check your Secretary of State's website and say, oh, okay, he or she got their LLC 2 years ago, and so it looks good on your credit profile, and it makes it a little bit easier for you. But most of the time, in-house financing, be prepared for 10 to 20% down, 650 and up credit score. I would say if you really want to be cat lacking, have a 700 credit score, and you can basically be reassured of an approval. It's just going to be all about the down payment. O'Shea, obviously trucks have went up, man. My first brand new truck was $93,000 in 2002. Now, a 2021 will cost you, last time I priced one when I went to the dealership the other day, 100, and I could get it for 158,000. All right. So by the time you finance, and then you do your FET, which is the federal excise tax, case most folks didn't know, if it's a new truck, the federal government taxes it 12%, and they put money in their pocket, right? So once you do all that, you're looking at basically close to 200 grand. They will go 6 or 7 years for you these days. Most of the time, though, you can look to pay at least a $3,500 note, 3 to 35. Is what you can probably be comfortable with if you're going new. I bought an 18 this year in April. An 18, mind you, 3-year-old truck, and I paid 138,000. All right, I'm gonna say that again. 138,000 for a 3-year-old truck. It's an 18 in 2021, so that can give somebody perhaps an idea what they'll be looking at.
Okay, now let me talk about scaling the business. To get, now you have how many people working for you now?
I have 2 trucks. And I have 2 regular guys that are working the days, and I work the nights. All right. So what I'm doing now, O'Shea, I guess you could say I have 2 full-time guys. They take care of the days. I have myself, and I have a part-time guy that works the nights. So I'm rolling both trucks during the day with my regular guys, and then me and a part-time guy, we work the nights.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because obviously now you have more than 1 truck. And you're making money even when you're not there, which is a great thing to do as an entrepreneur. Exactly. For a person that wants to get to that level and scale the business, what are some of the challenges that you have when you have those things and finding talent for your organization, things like that?
Number 1, the driver. Number 1 is you can get a fancy truck, you can get a new truck, it can look good, you can have the work. But if you're going to scale, it boils down to who's in between that steering wheel and that seat. All right. And so you got to have guys that, let me say this, what I look for, O'Shea, is a guy, number 1, if he's got responsibility, more than likely he's going to work. And what I mean by that is if he's married with a family, if he's got children, after talking with him, he's got some ambition and things of that nature. That's what I look for in a driver, right? If he's got that in the mentality, number 1. All right. Number 2, he's got to be able to think critically. All right. Because in dump trucking, you get off road, for example, and you got to make a decision on if that ground is bad or boggy, should you go through it with that load? Right. And if you go through it, what gear in the truck do you need to get gear down on to get low enough to pull through that? Right. So I'm looking for guys who can think and make really critical decisions on their own, that are not calling me every 10 minutes, what I need to do. Right. So I need a guy who can think. Thirdly, I need a guy who can take care of business. In other words, you're talking to the contractor. He needs you to write a ticket up, right? You can write the ticket. I want you to be able to do that. I shouldn't have to do the ticket later, send a ticket, that kind of thing. So I'm looking for a guy who can conduct a little business, right? Can assume a form of leadership, because I subcontract trucks too, O'Shea, for time to time. So I'm not out there. I need a guy who can direct the other guys who may be out there working for me on that job too, in their own truck. So I need you to be able to take a leadership role, right? So historically, what's worked for me and finding that kind of talent, as you said, is being from a rural area. What my method has been, number one, guys that I know themselves or I know their families. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, so if I know them or I know their family, I can generally pinpoint if there's work ethic, what kind of person they are, or that nature firsthand. Or
Mm-hmm.
secondly, guys that have worked for me before or people just in our area or my family know of a guy who knows a guy, right? That somebody can vouch for, needs to work, will work, that kind of stuff. So when I talk basically with them guys, they're already coming with a good recommendation that, okay, you ain't got to worry about him going to work. He going to do this and that, right? So we ain't
Mm-hmm.
got to even deal with those kind of shenanigans. I've
Mm-hmm.
never posted an ad in a paper. In 21 years, I've never had to
Mm.
put anything on Craigslist. I've never went through any kind of human resources department. Every driver that's ever worked for me and scaled up with when I've scaled up has it been by firsthand knowledge or
Mm-hmm.
a family member of mine or somebody that knew a guy, that kind of thing, to where I got a good, solid background of that.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Wow, that's a blessing right there.
Yes, it is.
Sometimes, a lot of times with friends and families, you get the opposite situation. But it's good to know
Yeah.
that you've been able to do that. Well, I mean, you've given us a lot of information and stuff. I mean, with now as far as per cities, because I know that when I was in your stream the other night when I came in,
Okay.
I actually shared it so on my community
Awesome.
tab, and so that's what some people came in, and I saw that there
Yeah.
are a lot of people from different
I
areas.
saw that. Okay, yeah. I was
Yeah,
wondering because I've had an influx of new people here last few days. I was like, okay, this is
yeah,
the people I'm seeing. Okay,
yeah.
appreciate that,
So
man.
yeah, no problem. So they came out, and I was seeing that there were some people like in Jacksonville, Florida. You had some guys from there.
Yeah, yeah,
What are you hearing? Because I know that the dump truck business in Louisiana
yeah.
is where in your area is blowing up. But what have you heard from these other cities across the country
Same
about
thing. Yeah, I've
same
heard
thing?
the same thing. Yeah, Jacksonville particularly. We've had guys on from Jacksonville. Let me just name a couple of cities: Jacksonville, Charlotte, North Carolina, Raleigh, North Carolina, um, the South Florida area, the Central Florida area, um, Alabama, all over Alabama. Well, I can probably go states now, all over Alabama. Let me just say the South is booming. Let me just go ahead and do it regionally. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't heard anybody say anything about any of the southern states having any issues. And
Mm-hmm.
so we had a guy on from Minnesota the other day, Minneapolis, Minnesota. Hey man, how's it work? Oh man, this quad axles are rolling up here. New Jersey and Philadelphia, that corridor up there in New York and all that, same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Virginia, we have a lot of people follow the channel that's from Virginia. I've been amazed to see how many followers we have out of Richmond and the Virginia area. And so what we found particularly to some of those areas is that asphalt, and I didn't know this, the asphalt plants shut down in the winter. They don't even do asphalt in the winter. I was like, well, man, how you guys make it? What do you do? Snow plowing and salt and limestone in the winter. And so we found that in most of the states that have been represented, in cities that have been represented, there's some form of dump trucking that they either revert to even in the winter. Because that's always everybody's question I get. What are you going to do in the winter? What do you do in the winter? What do you do in the winter? That's what everybody's fear. What am I going to do with this truck in the winter? And so that's what we've seen, that there are other avenues that you just got to plug in and tap in to that putting that snow plow in front of your dump truck if you're in Philadelphia in the north. One of my followers, 33, Bull Warren, is out of Philadelphia, and he's already got himself lined up that he's going to be snow plowing in the winter already. He's already set up. And so there's these different avenues, and you just have to adjust to that. But most states, man, and that's what's blew my mind, that in all these different cities across the country, so much work. And I was like, man, what has happened suddenly? It looked like it just has happened suddenly. I don't know if it's been going on, but I always ask that question on the channel when we do the lives. How's the work in your city? And I don't think I've had not one person, O'Shea, that have said, man, ain't nothing going on here. If it's been a little slow, they can at least say that major city, 20 miles
Mm-hmm.
away, 30 miles away, they can at least be able to say, well, yeah, they got it over there,
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps some of your mid-level cities, 100,000 people, maybe on 100,000, maybe they not as rustling and bustling. But if they go to that major city,
Right.
no question, the work is there.
Okay, let me ask you this last question because you talked to me a little bit earlier before the stream. This is what typically happens, before the stream, start content creator to talk a little bit
Right.
before we start the recording. But you
Okay.
told me that a lot of ladies,
Yeah.
and I've been noticing that like a lot of ladies are interested in the trucking,
Yes.
and even though I have most men, and I'm pretty sure that your channel is mostly men that follow your channel.
Majority.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about what's the opportunities that why are women wanting to get into the dump truck? Are you shocked by that?
Not really, because here in Louisiana, for at least the last 10 to 15, when I started, you might have had one. But as we got to about my 5th year and on up to now, man, there's a lot of ladies driving ready mix trucks, dump trucks. I haven't personally had the opportunity to hire one, but I work hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder with them, working for other companies. And let me tell you something, those sisters really know how to handle the truck. And not just sisters, our Caucasian sisters as well, white and black. They know how to handle those trucks. And what I found that they are very careful drivers and they are doing well. And so there have been it's 2 or 3 now that got their own trucks that are doing
Wow.
business and making good money and doing well. And so here's what we discovered, that they can do the job, they can do it effectively. Um, I mean, you think about dump trucking. What's the hardest thing? From a physical standpoint, maybe if he or she, if she has to get in the back of the truck. But I've seen them get in the back of the truck. The only time that we have had to help or they've required some help, if you get into some heavy duty lifting of something up, dealing with the truck as relates to a breakdown or helping them with something as relates, you having the knowledge of what it could be, something along those lines. But that has not hindered them at all. Most of them had done the same thing we've done. They've contracted with mechanics to come out and help them find out what the problem is, do what needs to be done. And brother, they are doing it. I'm excited for them. What has once probably was a male dominated field, we have a lot of ladies that are inquiring, and I'm excited for them because the opportunity is there for them as well.
Okay. So for the ladies that are watching the channel, don't be afraid to reach out to the country CEO and subscribe. Now, brother, you're a very informative channel. You have a very strong competitive advantage in the content that you provide. But I always ask everybody, what is it for people? Why should they subscribe to the Country CEO YouTube channel?
Well, I think they should subscribe, man, because number one, the transparency. What I've seen, what I've been told, what I've seen, nobody on YouTube is giving the game from a level of transparency that I am. And I take that from what I've observed, but also from just the subscribers. Everybody seems to be saying the same thing in response, right? That, man, nobody's just really telling it like it is. I mean, O'Shea, I've shown folks what I've made. I've shown them the receipts of what this and that costs when you have breakdowns. So I think for me, what has provided value more than anything is the transparency. So folks should subscribe to the Country CEO channel. We're more than just a vlog. Yeah, we take you along on another day in the life of trucker, show you me working on jobs. But more than anything, I want to show you the ins and outs, the stuff that people don't want to tell you, don't want to speak of. And then many times folks don't want you to know how much money they're making. I want to show it to you. And so I believe for me, that's number one. And that's why you ought to subscribe. The transparency, the value that you're going to get, the education you're going to get. And because I'm a pastor, you're going to also get, a little touch of ice cream on top. You're going to get some inspiration.
All right, Reverend. Okay, so guys, I thank you so much for watching. This is a great channel. I'm not even into trucking, but you guys know I'm always looking for a brother that can help the African-American male community. And the Country CEO is an awesome channel. And he really is helping the people, the community. Most people that I always see, if I can see in the all people, but most notably, I would say there's a lot of Black people over there that are really coming over and changing their lives. And I really appreciate him because he don't have to do it. He's already very successful. He don't have to share this information to anybody, but from the goodness of his heart, he's been able to come over and talk to me today. I really appreciate him for that. And check him out at the first comment pinned to the top. Subscribe to him. Tell him O'Shea sent you. And as you know, the buffoonery remains all time high. We're out.